Now, please welcome Chief Customer Officer Mike Merritt.
All right, we've heard some really exciting stuff. There's just so much promise. I think you can see that promise. But the reality is, the ones that are actually turning that promise into results, into success, it's you, it's our customers. And that's the really exciting part for me. And I'm actually really excited to introduce you to one of our customers today. So please welcome me in joining the VP of Digital Supply Chain from Bayer, Jim Kinnett.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Great to be here and very inspiring. In fact, my mind is going around going the what ifs and the use cases I have now. So again, lots of questions come up. And so very inspiring this morning.
Well, I think you've got a pretty exciting use case. Why don't we just start? I know you brought a couple slides. Why don't we just start by giving a little context on Bayer, the scope, the scale?
Yeah, many of you may not know Bayer as an agriculture company. You may think of us as an aspirin company. So let me reframe you a little bit about what we do at Bayer, and I'll do it quickly so we can get into some deeper content. So Bayer, we have 100,000 employees, 84 countries, 3 divisions. First division, really over-the-counter, which is the Bayer aspirin. Also pharmaceuticals, and then what we call the crop science business. And if you pulled the crop science business out of Bayer, it would be the largest agriculture company in the world. So if you look at that and how we manage our investments, overall we're investing about $6 billion in R&D. As we dive deeper into crop science, I'll show you some other numbers here. And with crop science, last year, our sales was $25 billion, half of Bayer. So we are the biggest part of Bayer now, which is a little bit of a change for Bayer through some recent acquisitions, as many of you probably know. We invest $3 billion in R&D and have 35,000 employees around the world. So for us, it's a lot of focus on really some of the topics you heard this morning. Let me talk a little bit more about, okay, row crops we have, we're the number 1 in corn, we're 1 or 2 in soybeans around the world, and 1 or 2 in cotton around the world. We also have a crop protection business with chemicals, about 90 active ingredients, and with that, we also have a vegetable business where we went through a number of acquisitions. So a pretty diverse portfolio. Our core business that we really want to grow and we really want to invest in is around our field production and our field crops. And we'll talk about that a little bit more and why this partnership is so important to us.
So just like a small mom and pop farm situation?
Exactly. Well, for us, we are the biggest farmer in the world. If collectively, if you look at our farms, we farm more than anybody else in the world as a company.
So with that, infinite complexity, right? I know I've heard your team talk a lot about supply chain challenges. Can you give a little context on the supply chain challenges that you run into?
Yeah, we typically look at risk, and again, it goes a lot to the conversation this morning. From a risk perspective, finance risk, we always look at environmental risk. There's a drought somewhere in the world every year. When we look through that, understand how that impacts our portfolio. This past year, past 2 or 3 years, it started with the pandemic. All these other factors came in that were not predictable. And for us, that became a challenge because now I have logistics challenges I didn't have before. I can't get shipments out of China to my raw material factories to really produce products. I can't get really labor where I need it because, again, COVID has hit us and caused an issue there. So pandemic, labor, and just managing through some of those challenges we've never had before become very complex. For us to understand now, okay, how do we manage risk differently is one of our key challenges. And we also believe this is the way of the future. This isn't going away. We had a long discussion with our executive team around, is this going to go back to some normalcy in the past? And we said, no, this is normal. And how are we going to manage through this when we have so many remote workers, et cetera?
So how do you solve for that?
Well, for me, we put a digital story together years ago. So 3 years ago, we talked about how do we become an end-to-end connected supply chain so that we can manage anything that comes our way. And that's great to say, easy on paper, but it really talks about how do you change an organization. And we changed the organization from very siloed mentality of, okay, I'm great at manufacturing, I'm great at logistics, I'm great at customer service, to how do everything I do in planning or manufacturing impact our customers. And so we have an end-to-end connected supply chain, and we're on that journey today. Data becomes critical in how you integrate that information, because I want to be able to predict outcomes. At the end of the day, I want to drive the business differently with the outcomes and the information they have. And many of you know by now that the hardest thing I have is to get change management of people using the models and believing the data. They, in the past, used other data. I'm telling them a different way to operate, and that is a challenge for us. And we have to put a lot of effort into, hey, have you looked at this data differently, and how are we using that? So that's, data is critical for us. This relationship's critical because it gives us information we typically don't have.
So what was the process? Just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. Data to prediction. How did you end up with Planet?
Well, we looked at, for us, we are a science company and data is everywhere. We have sensors everywhere. I can tell you soil temperature. I can tell you where a truck is, the humidity on that truck. I can tell you all kinds of information. But what I couldn't tell you is enough granularity that I still had to walk manually through fields to understand what was going on with a crop. For us, this relationship gives us the ability to say, let's not walk through that field. Let's look at the imagery and decide, is our crop drying down faster than we think it is? Is there insect pressure that we don't know? And then you can do some decisions based on that. It was critical for us to understand what data are we missing? Where's our blind spots? And is there better data out there? And again, going back to some of the questions that came up on the screen, some of the things that I want to answer right now, how many acres are planted in the US? Is it 10%? Is it 30%? It could also change our demand curves based on that, because I know in the South, they may have already planted soybean. So those are the type of things that this gives us the opportunity. For me, it's a lot about the what if. And again, this morning when I was listening, everybody was going, okay, what if this and what if that? And all of a sudden use cases started running through my head, because at the end of the day, this opened up ideas that we didn't think to ask before. And for me, that's exciting.
Yeah. So the partnership required, right? That's kind of a big reliance on like an external data source there. What do you look for in a partnership to make this successful?
Yeah, any partnership that we look at as how do both parties benefit? It's not just one party or the other and become one-sided. It's really how do they benefit? What do they bring to the table? Is it accelerating some progress? Is it co-innovating? And that way, 1 + 1 = 3, not something they could do on their own. And when we partnered with Planet, for us, it was critical to understand what are the possibilities. What does the resolution improvements help us do that we couldn't do before? And again, I think I would call it co-innovating together on a lot of this stuff. We're using every part of the Planet portfolio of data. I mean, I'll give you an example. We have 700,000 square kilometers of fusion data, which covers our production fields. So I can tell you what's going on in those production fields, and I can also make decisions as granular as saying we need to run irrigation on these fields differently.
So yeah, and look, one of the things I can say for the partnership is you challenge us. Like Bayer challenges Planet to be better every day, and we're actually really grateful for it. It's not easy always, but it pushes us both to be better. So appreciate that. Okay, we've talked just a little bit about sustainability at this conference today. What's Bayer's sustainability strategy today?
Yeah, honestly, 5, 6, 7 years ago, sustainability was an outcome of other decisions. Today, it's more of really embedded in everything we do. So one of the things that we're trying to do is get net zero emissions by 2050. You may think that's not a lot, but for our whole value chain, not just Bayer. So thinking about our suppliers all the way through our customers, understanding that net zero emissions. Today, when we put this strategy in place 5 years ago, we've made progress that says we're 20% improvements in emissions inside the walls of Bayer and 6% including our whole value chain. We've got a ways to go, but it's a focus for us to continue to improve. The things we're doing, getting this information, not over irrigating, not running tractors through fields when we don't need to, only understanding really how to become a really good farmer inside, but also influencing our farmers outside to make sure they also understand this is how you become a better farmer in the practices you do. So a lot going on here, and for us, it's important for that environment because we're in that environment every day. I mean, and those of you that have children, you know that leaving the planet a better place than it was before is always a great opportunity and goal.
But so that's like a pretty significant investment, though. What changed? What was the spark that kind of led to the change?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story, and I tell my team this quite a bit. We were moving down this path before the pandemic, and it was clear to me that we had to do some things different. We had to do it collectively. And our chief supply chain officer didn't really understand it. He didn't understand why we need to accelerate this view of connection and bringing everything together. He was more worried about the operations today. What changed was the pandemic, when he realized that all these risks that we had not accounted for hit us. And then he started asking those questions, and I said, that's the questions we've been working on for 3 years and trying to manage through that. That event, unfortunate as it was, caused a spark that our executive team changed a little bit about the attitude of what digital and data can do and drive differently and accelerate some of the risk management pieces that we had been putting in place. But the pandemic was part of it. I think also showing business results. So for us, it is critical that we don't just invest in a technology for technology's sake. We invest to see the outcomes in the business. In fact, when Mike and I talked before, I tell him I don't like digital transformation. I don't like those words. I like digital acceleration driving business transformation because it's all about the results, or why would you do it? And when I say results, not just for Bayer, but for our farmers, for our environment, and for us, that's important. And so when I put a portfolio together on investments and how we drive things, we invest it, we do ROIs on all of that to say, this is what you're going to get out of it. This could also impact our employees' engagement. This could impact a number of other things. We run a portfolio of investments just like we would a product. And for us, that becomes critical on the engagement of, again, getting the executives to sponsor it, drive it, and understand they're making trade-offs with a manufacturing site, investing in a piece of equipment, or in a digital investment. For us, it all started with the pandemic that changed and flipped that switch over.
I love that story. Just to close out, take one big step back, look into your magic crystal ball. I know you got one. What does Bayer look like 5 years from now? What is the strategy 5 years from now?
Well, I was going to give a boring answer, but then this morning it inspired me to give a little bit different answer. So I would say, everybody goes with digital twin and those type of things. For us, it's always been about simulating our supply chain. I would say simulating our value chain is something that, in 5 years is pretty soon. So we'll stick with that. But I also think it goes to a little bit of asking questions. I'd love to ask a question saying, hey, how's this field doing over here? And saying, should we water it today? Yes, okay, turn the equipment on. The typical things that you may be able to do in your home, you can't do on a field out in agriculture. And so for us, it's a little bit of I want to simulate but I also want to make operations easier for that. But for our team that we've talked about, it's all about predictions. I want to know the outcomes before the outcomes happen so that I can manage risk and do what if scenarios. If I have ships stuck in a canal somewhere with raw materials, how does that impact our customers? For us, that's what we're working on. I think in 5 years, we'll make great progress, but eventually we need to get long past that so that we can ask complex questions. Anybody in our supply chain can ask those questions, similar to what you saw today, and get answers without having to call data scientists in and those type to answer those questions. But for me, it's continuing the journey we're on, but also enabling the what if from everybody. They ask different questions.
So we're looking forward to continuing on that journey, but I want you to promise to come back 5 years and tell the story.
We'll do.
Okay?
We'll do.
All right.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have one last thing before our break and we go to breakout sessions, and I'm really, really excited about this one. I think you will be too. So this year marks our second annual Planet Purpose Awards. So Planet enables this whole ecosystem of customers and partners to shed light on events where accountability is most needed, ultimately with this goal of driving better outcomes for a sustainable, secure planet. Today, I'm excited to recognize some of the pioneers that are doing that today. So if you're in the crowd and your organization is called, please stand up and be recognized. So our first award, get the clicker. The Do Good Award goes to NASA Harvest. Inbal, where are you at? The Russo-Ukrainian war has potentially dire consequences for food security in the world. So Will talked about this and showed you this. Leveraging Planet's data, NASA Harvest was able to create a rapid assessment of food security and then gave that planning to planners worldwide so they can make more accurate decisions and reducing the risk to the people that are most vulnerable from a food security perspective. Our second award, Dream Big. Our second award winner is Polícia Federal and SCCon. Cristiano. Congrats. The Amazon is crucial for the health of the entire planet. But how do you monitor an area of that size? It's like an incredible challenge. The team at SCCon worked with Planet data to provide a daily dashboard of alerts for things like illegal deforestation and other damaging events, so that Polícia Federal could take instant action and actually stop the damage before it starts. It's really amazing. Our next winner, Be Collaborative, is NICFI and KSAT. So Norway's International Climate and Forest Initiative is dedicated to mitigating climate change by protecting the world's tropical forests. To that end, we have enabled free access to Planet data to researchers, governments, and others that are protecting these critical rainforests. With thousands of users using this data every month, it's making a real difference at a global scale. It's really amazing. Our next winner, Drive for Results, is the Food and Supplies Department of Odisha. In collaboration with ORSAC and Spark Private Limited, this initiative supports over 1.5 million farmers in the state of Odisha, India, helping to identify massive fraud, actually worth 200 million USD last year. That was previously being directed away from most of the people that needed it most. Really incredible. Great job. And our last award recognizes those that foster openness and make a real difference in the world. The award goes to the journalists of the Schemes program, the investigative unit of Radio Free Europe in Ukraine. Radio Free Europe uses Planet to document and raise the alarms about war crimes in the Ukraine. It's just an incredibly important service that they are offering to this world, and just honored, honestly, for them and all of our winners. Congratulations again. All right, that is it for the main stage session. I hope you found it informative and inspiring. Next, breakout sessions at 11:30, so there's a brief break. But don't forget, later on, the Partner Expo over here, we're gonna have some amazing partners. There's a lot to learn there, and I can't wait to see you at the party on Thursday night as well. Have fun.